So thank you. So let's conclude with the last lab for this lesson that we call it today. So we're talking about the key information security concepts and which are the three objectives of information security. So the objectives are being represented by this triangle. The objective of information security are to ensure the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information asset. I will take my time to explain what is meant by confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So when we're talking of confidentiality, so confidentiality has to do with the protection of information from unauthorized disclosure. For example, if you don't want a malicious person to have access to customers' accounts, you want to maintain the confidentiality to ensure that the information are not being disclosed to unauthorized unauthorized people. So when I'm talking about integrity, the integrity has to do with the accuracy and completeness of information in accordance with business value and expectations. So it can be the integrity of your data, the integrity of your applications, the integrity of your of information that you are processing. So then the last objective has to do with availability. So the ability to access information and resource required by the business process. So at any point any point in time, your customer must be able to access the services that they've subscribed to. For example, if you run an e-commerce website and you have a couple of customers that have registered to that e-commerce website and they have an account, let's presume that, okay, you make a purchase and the value has not been fully consummated. At any point in time, the customer should be able to have access to that e-commerce to track their order. So if they can't do that, that means that there's an availability issue on that e-commerce. So as an information security professionals, you must ensure that you guide these three basic objectives. Some people call it the CIA of information security. Beyond these objectives, so I will take my time to explain them one after the other. So as I've said, how do you ensure the confidentiality? So what are the losses? Before we talk about the preservation method for confidentiality, the losses, the consequence of confidentiality breach are as follows. The first one has to do with the disclosure of information protected by privacy laws. You know that privacy laws is a very big deal, especially if you look at the various acts, the GDPR Act, and the various acts that have been enacted by various countries and various states, even in the United States. So the second consequence has to do with the loss of public confidence. For example, if customers' details for a social media like Facebook, if the Facebook users have a feeling, or if they realize that all their Facebook credentials have been dumped, maybe in the dark web, because there is a confidentiality issue. Yeah, so but that act of dump can lead to different. It can be also be an integrity issue, but let's start with the confidentiality issue. So the people accessing Facebook might not trust Facebook and might lead to loss of public confidence. Even it can also affect the past. Let's put that people feel that their customers' details or their personal details have been compromised. They will not have confidence in banking with any of those financial organizations, or have the confidence to embrace the various digital platform that bank has provided. And can also lead to loss of competitive advantage. They can also lead to serious legal action against the enterprise, because if this confidentiality breach is not well handled, This can lead to legal action and also interfere with the national security. And the last one has to do with the loss of compliance. So these are some of the consequences. So what are the preservation methods that can be used to guard against this? You must have a very good access controls in place. Make sure that you restrict access to information, and access must be based on least privilege principle. Do not grant a user of a digital platform more than necessary access. And also, you must make sure that you have a various mechanisms in place. Don't leverage on password alone. Password alone is not trusted. You can leverage on technology like multi-proof factor authentication, like two-factor, three-factor, or any stuff. Then make sure that you have the regular you implement file permission. Make sure that you restrict the permission, especially to files, sensitive files like log files, parameters, what your code and all of that. Make sure that file access is being restricted. Confidential information like even the financial statement, and if after the file get to the wrong hand, if they get to the wrong hand, you have the permission, they will not be able to open up the file. So the last preservation method is encryption. So if your data are being encrypted, whether at rest, whether in storage, whether they're being used, if at all the data are compromised, the data will be rendered useless to the to be it will be rendered useless to the malicious actors, because they will not be able to make meaning out of that encrypted data. So most sure that you leverage on the latest encryption algorithm. So as time goes on, we'll delve into the details of encryptions and different algorithm and different types of encryption. So that's for the confidentiality. For the integrity, as I've said earlier, integrity has to do with the accuracy and completeness of information in accordance with business values and expectation. What are the consequences? So just this few listed on the screen are just these consequences. So the consequences can read in inaccuracy of your data, inaccuracy of your information. The consequences can also lead to erroneous decision, because you know that data, you use data a lot for decision making. If the data has been compromised, if the integrity of the data has been tampered with, so and if that is not known, so anybody that's leveraging on that data is making an erroneous decision. Integrity, consequence of the data integrity, like fraud. For example, in a financial institution, if there is integrity in the financial data, that can lead to fraud. The integrity can also lead to failure of hardware and also lead to loss of compliance. So what are the various preservation methods? Yes, access control can also be used to protect the integrity of your data log information, restrict access to your subject as much as possible, then logging. If you have an adequate login in place, at least you'll be able to know if the wrong subject is accessing a particular object. And with that visibility, you can quickly restrict the further action from the malicious subject. So another preservation techniques has to do with the digital signatures. We will explain this further whenever we discuss about encryption. Then another way of ensuring the integrity of your data, maybe on the databases, is to hash the data. Then how do you also maintain your integrity of your data? Make sure that you have a backup copy. For example, if your data has been original data has been tampered with, so the backup copies will make sure that allow you to fall back to the real untampered data. And the last of the preservation techniques is encryptions. So encryption has to do with you making the data unreadable to anybody that doesn't have the right key. So we talk about the encryption. The encryption is going to be like kind of a topic on its own. Then let's discuss the availability. The availability is the ability to access information and resource required by the business process. So what are the losses? What are the consequences? Loss of functionality and operational effectiveness, loss of production time, fine from regulators or lawsuits, interference with enterprise objective and loss of compliance. So how do you preserve your availability? Make sure that you have a redundancy of network system and data in place. That is very, very important. So also make sure that you have an HA system, HA system architecture. Make sure that you have a data replications. Make sure that you have a very robust backup copy, and make sure that you have your access control is tight, and also make sure that you have a well-designed disaster recovery plan or business continuity plan. And beyond this, so as time goes on, we'll be talking about various technology like anti-DDoS, a technology that guide against a distributed denial of service attack, and I also explain what is meant by the various types of DOS member stand goes on during the course of the class. So this is just introductory course, just for us to get used to some definition of terms. So apart from the CIA, there is another objective which has to do with the non-repudiation. What do I mean by the non-repudiation? Non-repudiation refers to the concept of ensuring that a message or other information is genuine. So in cybersecurity, information received must be verified as coming from the actual sending source indicated. It is also important that neither sender nor receiver can later deny that they sent or received information. So non-repudiation is implemented through the digital signatures and transaction logs. So we'll talk more on digital signatures by the time we're discussing the encryption. So in layman language, so non-repudiation is to ensure that to ensure that the information being sent by sender to receiver is not that information is not being tampered with, and also to ensure that the receiver cannot claim that that information has been received, and vice versa. So when the sender can also not claim that he or she has not sent that kind of information. That's just in layman terms, but we will delve into that later on in the course. So I think our next class will be discussing about the various cybersecurity roles. And so till then, have a wonderful night, right? Thank you.